MP for the UP wants to know what is the process for decision-making at the airport. Alared B. Peters is our Black History feature for this evening, and Prime Minister says that she will be meeting with the President of the Union for Tailend Workers and have asked for a discussion with both parties. Those are the headlines for Thursday, February the 18th, 2021. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie from Britain. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And as usual, we have a packed newscast for you, so let's get started. In our first story, Prime Minister of St. Martin, the Honorable Sylvia Jacobs, speaking at the Council of Ministers' weekly press briefing on Wednesday last, elucidated on the Tailend workers and on the civil servants. Ms. Jacobs says that she will be meeting with the President of the Union for Tailend Workers and have asked for a discussion with both parties. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has also announced the outcome of her meeting with the CCSU's membership and the COVID-19 Temporary National Ordinance Austerity Measures Regulation, of which the members received a copy. The Prime Minister expounded further.
As I got to the building today, I was made aware that there were some Tailend personnel waiting to see me. I was not able to see them at this time, and I did take up immediate contact with the management of Tailend to find out what exactly was the problem. I had seen a letter that was written to the unions. I also spoke with the head of the union representing Tailend workers, Mr. Averts, and I have asked both parties to have a discussion with each other, which I'm looking forward to hearing the result of in the course of today. I have been able to speak to at least two of the management team, and I'm looking forward to be updated that the information that has been disseminated in the letter can be properly discussed between both parties. So I look forward to hearing about that and trust that in the meantime that they have received my message. Also, during last week, I had a meeting with the CCSU's membership, which is the membership that is represented by representative of civil servants. That meeting went quite well. During the meeting, the COVID-19 Temporary National Ordinance regulating the austerity measures related to civil servants, which was passed in Parliament on Wednesday, February 3rd, was discussed, and members received a copy of the law as well. We were able to discuss some of our concerns, both sets of parties, in the presence of the chairperson of the CCSU Secretariat, and we were able to give clarity on how the law would affect our civil servants. I was also able to update them that I did have a couple of meetings with the staff to be able to ensure that they knew what was going on, and the CCSU membership we have agreed moving forward that we will meet on a quarterly basis to discuss relevant topics, but of course, in between, if necessary, other meetings can be called. There are several topics that are to be discussed, so we would like to establish working groups made up of civil servants as well as a union to be able to have more in-depth discussions prior to it coming to a decision-making on the CCSU platform. So those smaller information sessions also will be organized within the work groups on a technical level moving forward, and quarterly we will be meeting as standard. All parties, both the membership, so the unions that were involved, which are the WICSU PSU, the Y2 and the APFO, were part of that meeting, and we agreed that we will continue to use the CCSU for our decision making and to anything that relates to policies that touch on the civil service. There were other documents that were to be shared, which I hope have been shared in the meantime, but if not, I will double check to make sure that that takes place in terms of policy changes that government is undergoing, working from home, etc., which will be shared with the unions as well. Both entities reiterated our goals of effective representation, good working relations, and as well as continued good service to the general public and preservation of the rights of workers. There are several meetings scheduled to take place regarding the national NRPB and our steering committee in this week. We are having pre-meetings. This was also discussed during our Council of Ministers and will continue tomorrow on specific projects. And so our Council of Ministers remain engaged in ensuring that we can complete the projects.
Meanwhile, member of the anti-poverty platform, Claire Elshat, speaking at the SMAP's weekly press conference, which was held at the Weifel building earlier today, expounded on the meeting with the Prime Minister, Sylvia Jacobs, and the CCSU. Mrs. Elshat says that she read the Prime Minister's press release and says that the Prime Minister called the meeting fruitful. But Mrs. Elshat is asking now, what are the fruits of this meeting? She also expounded further.
Prime Minister's press release about meeting with the Committee Civil Servants Union. Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs, in her capacity as Minister of General Affairs, last week Thursday on February the 11th, held a meeting with the Committee for Civil Servants Unions, the CCSU. On the agenda was the COVID-19 Temporary National Ordinance Regulation regulating the austerity measures related to civil servants, which was presented to Parliament bypassing the Chamber of Labour Unions and the legally required advice from the Committee of Civil Servants. As President of the Windward Islands Teachers Union, Y2, and as President of the Windward Island Chamber of Labour Unions, I have read the press release of the Prime Minister, which she also mentioned in the weekly press conference of the Council of Ministers yesterday. The Prime Minister, as Minister of General Affairs, called the meeting a fruitful meeting. What were the fruits of this meeting according to the Honorable Prime Minister? The first fruit. The Prime Minister wrote that after she had presented the effects of the law on the civil servants, the members were given the floor to state their concerns, ask questions, receive clarity on the way forward. Was there an agreement reached with the union's representatives in that meeting? Not at all. An agreement would have made the meeting fruitful in our opinion. Second fruit, the Prime Minister furthermore stated that the CCSU membership will meet with Prime Minister Jacob on a quarterly basis to discuss relevant topics, that all parties agree that the communication will continue via the CCSU platform. She also stated that both government and the unions are happy to have reached this stage whereby dialogue has reopened and the communication pathway are clear for future negotiations and collaboration in the interests of the civil servants. Was there an agreement reached with the union representatives that negotiations between government and unions will replace the advisory role, the committee, and the unilateral decision-taking of government on all legal matters concerning civil servants? Absolutely not. Negotiations to reach to mutual agreements would have been a fruitful outcome of this meeting.
And in other news, Minister of Education Dr. Anders Rodolph Samuel, speaking at the virtual Council of Ministers weekly press briefing, announced yesterday that the Ministry of Education continues to prioritize school safety with a number of initiatives over the last years, and as such, the ministry will be from the 15th to the 26th of March holding the regional review on school safety in the context of systemic risk. The Virtual School Safety Initiative Forum will assess experiences of the education sector's COVID response. The minister expounded further.
The Ministry of Education continues to prioritize school safety with a number of initiatives over the last years. The COVID-19 pandemic has made evident how fragile our different systems are. The school sector has become one of the worst affected sectors all over the world. So from the 15th to the 26th of March, the Regional Review on School Safety in the Context of Systemic Risk, the Virtual Caribbean School Safety Initiative Pre-Ministerial Forum will assess experiences of the education sector's COVID-19 response and recovery prior and during the 2020 hurricane season. It will also discuss the need for coordinating policies and actions for prevention and mitigation to build education sector resilience. The Pre-Ministerial Forum will also highlight the fact that ensuring school safety is a starting point for reactivating the economy while discussing the fiscal limitations that might impact the region due to economic crisis resulting from the pandemic. This event, which will set the agenda for the third Caribbean School Safety Initiative Ministerial Forum to be held in St. Martin in 2022, will promote a culture of disaster prevention, resilience, and responsible citizenship. It will also generate understanding of disaster risk, supporting mutual learning and share experiences. It will encourage public and private stakeholders to actively engage in such initiatives and to develop new ones at the local level, national, regional, and global levels, as it is envisioned in the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction from 2015 to 2030. The forum will host not only meetings between the Ministers of Education of the Caribbean, but also between permanent secretaries, National Disaster Management Office directors, intersectoral partners, educators, and youth organizations. The forum is hosted by the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports, together with the Ministry of Education of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The organizing committee is composed of the National St. Vincent and the organizing committee is composed of the school safety focal points of St. Martin and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as by the regional and international partners supporting the school safety, this Caribbean School Safety Initiative, notable the CIDEMA, UNDRR, UNICEF, UNESCO, and Israel Aid, among others. The focal point for St. Martin and the visionary for this virtual forum is the manager and the Student Support Services Division Head, Mrs. Olga Mussington-Sovis.
And still to come, independent member of parliament wants to know how can the World Bank do business with a company who was condemned in a court of law. We'll have the details of that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
Hi, I'm Switch.
And I'm Save.
And together we're here
to tell you about WIB, Switch, and Save mortgage offer.
Now at WIB, you can save and benefit from great specials when you decide
to bring your mortgage to WIB.
When you switch, WIB will offer you
payment of penalty fees up to 3 months interest,
payment of notary fees,
waive of bank closing fees,
and also the lowest interest rate.
Plus, you'll have the chance to win back 1 year of interest payment.
Visit any of WIB's mortgage specialists and benefit from WIB's Switch and
Hey, that's my part. And Save mortgage offer.
WIB, your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. And as we continue to honor our local heroes for Black History Month, this evening we will pay tribute to Mr. Alared B. Peters. The partial text was taken from the book National Symbols of St. Martin. Alared B. Peters is the father of modern St. Martin's trade unionism, and in the late 1960s, Mr. Peters organized the St. Martin Taxi Drivers Association, the TDA. Later, he extended his union activities into other sectors and formed the General Workers' Union. He served as the first president of both unions. This indomitable trade unionist traveled throughout the Caribbean and the United States to study trade unionism and meet with labor leaders. In the early 1970s, Mr. Peters was a founder of the Labor Spokesman, which advocated trade unionism. The short-lived newspaper, for which Will Johnson did much of its writing, joined the Windward Islands' opinion in calling for greater autonomy for St. Martin South, Saba, and St. Eustatius from the central government in Willemstad. Mr. Peters led the first successful stevedore strike in St. Martin. In 1971, the labor leader led taxi drivers on a strike that practically blockaded the island's southern capital of Great Bay. The threat of a general strike in support of the taxis was hovering over the polity after it appeared that the island government was still about to go ahead and impose a license plate fee for taxis. Not only was a cruise liner visiting at the time, but the very tourism industry was just getting off the ground. Attorney Roland Duncan, then Transportation Secretary for the government, remembered that the tax was not imposed because of the protest. Mr. Peters, a Cold Bay native, also served on the government's Advisory Council on Economic and Social Affairs. He spoke fluent Papiamento, English, Dutch, and Spanish. Mr. Peters began his taxi driving career in Aruba after he was forced out of Lago for being among those organizing workers when Lago began automating. He was, before returning home between 1963 and 1964, a key voice among Aruba's taxi drivers. The success of a young Rene Richardson, leading the fledgling Windward Islands Federation of Labor, WIFO, during the first half of the 1970s were facilitated by the pioneering work of Alared B. Peters. Throughout the early 1970s, Mr. Peters advocated taxi union investment in tour operations and car rentals to benefit tourism transportation workers. In his view, tourism was going to succeed in a big way, and he wanted to get in with his colleagues on the ground floor as a corporate group. Through TDA, the St. Martin Taxi Drivers Enterprise was eventually formed to facilitate group investments and give the average taxi driver more than an average chance at succeeding in the then fledgling tourism industry. One of the first victories was to block car rentals from locating at the Princess Juliana International Airport. The union became inactive, but Mr. Peters kept the SMDTE going in its managing director until his death in 1985. In the 1990s, taxi drivers opened protests against what they claimed as their marginalization by burgeoning big bus tour operators became one of the transportation sector's most bitter conflicts. And as we continue now with more news, the House of Parliament sat in a Central Committee meeting on Monday, February the 15th, 2021, with the shareholder representatives of the Princess Juliana International Airport. The Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunications, the Honorable Ludmila de Weaver, was in attendance and gave an update on the reconstruction project at the airport terminal and the operational projections for 2021. The meeting was requested by MPs C.A. Buncamper, G.S. Heiliger Martin, R. Bryson, A.E. Arundel, and C.T. Emmanuel. MP for the UP, the Honorable Omar Otley, speaking at the parliamentary meeting on Monday last, February the 15th, posed a number of questions to the managing board of the Princess Juliana International Airport. The Member of Parliament wanted to know what is the process for decision-making at the airport. Does it have to be a majority or does it need to be unanimous? The Member of Parliament also wanted to know if the airport made any cuts with the current measures being forced upon us by the Netherlands, and if so, will the CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer, and consultants be part of these cuts? The Member of Parliament expounded further.
First of all, what is the process for decision making at the airport? What I mean by this, we have the managing team, the COO, CFO, CEO. Does it have to be a majority decision between the three, or it needs to be unanimous? I ask this because based on my research and having conversations with many persons at the airport, it seems to be a rift between the current COO and CEO. I was happy to see you guys together on the radio the other day, and I ask this because we often say it here, the country is bigger than self. So if this is the case and a project or idea is presented, please remember that the country is bigger than self. Next, with the current measures in place or being forced upon us by the Netherlands, did the airport make any cuts? And if cuts are made, will the CFO and consultants be a part of these cuts? I see today we have the CEO, CFO, COO, but I would have liked to see a counterpart sitting next to the CFO. Many of my colleagues touched on it, and this is very important for the country of St. Martin. We have the 2-year agreement about to expire. We are asking for extension. St. Martin kept up their part of the bargain because the CFO is sitting here with us today. So I would like to know what is the update on this counterpart process. I would like to see a local person implemented in this process immediately. Last but not least, I think that the airport needs to start look at low-hanging fruits. I agree the full reconstruction of the airport is important, but the date keeps getting pushed back and we are seeing difficulties.
Meanwhile, Independent Member of Parliament Christophe Emmanuel, also speaking at the parliamentary meeting, wanted to know how can the World Bank do business with Windward Roads, a company who was condemned in a court of law. And when you read the World Bank procurement policy, they don't do business with companies that have been condemned. But yet, here in St. Martin, they are doing it. He also elaborated further.
When you hear members of parliament say the letter from the World Bank is reputable, a company of such, what do you expect? Of course, they're going to look at monies that they give. Mr. Chairman, I sometimes want to wonder where those same individuals are when we see certain things going on in St. Martin. Mr. Chairman, the same World Bank in this country is doing business with Windward Roads today, who was condemned in a court of law. Mr. Chairman, condemned in a court of law. And when you read the World Bank procurements, their policies and everything, they don't do business with companies that have been condemned in court. But here in St. Martin, they're doing it. Today, Mr. Chairman, Windward Roads is building schools now. Windward Roads building schools. Bidding much more higher than every other company, and they're getting it. But it's a reputable company. And of course, when they give letters, what do you expect? Nobody should be. I am very surprised. I am very surprised, Mr. Chairman. So, I mean, in one part of your tongue, you speak that, oh, the letter is reputable and nobody should be surprised, but they are doing business with a convicted company in St. Martin today. So let's make that clear. Windward Roads, Mr. Chairman, was condemned in a court of law. The World Bank is in no position, none whatsoever, none, to decide how the government of St. Martin should conduct their business. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I am surprised, also surprised, why the Minister of TIAC, Mr. Chairman, have the CEO here. Why? I mean, the whole thing want him gone. It comes down to one individual, Mr. Chairman, which is the minister. But yet he's here. But that's okay. He can be tolerated for now, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there's a famous saying on this TV program, Maury, when he pull out a DNA test to verify whether you're the father or not, and if you're not telling the truth, and he give you the lie detector test, he would say, and that was a lie.
Now, turning to our weather forecast for February the 18th, 2021. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to dominate the weather pattern across the region. Therefore, brisk winds and rough seas will persist during this forecast period. A small craft advisory remains in effect for St. Martin as seas will peak at 10 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers should continue to exercise caution. So the outlook through Saturday midday, partly cloudy and breezy with a few passing showers. And still to come, Friends in Action Foundation to hold informative session on Saturday at Emilio Wilson Park. I'll have the details to that story when SXM Daily News returns.
The innovative Banco Matico contactless smart card. Your Banco Matico smart card is now equipped with a contactless feature for payments, so get ready to tap and go. Contactless payments are fast, easy, secure, and accepted worldwide at all Maestro-enabled contactless terminals. Tap for transactions equivalent to or less than 100 NAF, or the US dollar equivalent. You will receive notifications via email anytime you tap. Tap, tap, and pay fast with WIB. For more information, visit our website at wib-bank.net. Tap and go with your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News, the Friends in Action Foundation, which was incorporated recently, will be holding an information session on Saturday, February the 20th at the Emilio Wilson Park. The intention of the foundation is to assist our community whenever and wherever possible. Speaking to SXM Daily Newsroom, Mr. Dubois explains the activities that they have held in the past.
The first activity we organized was a boat trip, right? Yes. In the lagoon, and it was full. It was full. And after the boat trip, we came together again, and we talk again, and we say, you know what we gained from the boat trip, we are going to give back to the community. And then we talk about it, we check to see which organization we could have donate to at that time. And the first one was ICANN Foundation. Yeah, and we went there and we donated. After that, the same day, we had get some goods like bags, school bags from 2 colleagues from RST, and we gave those bags to the Lions Club, yes, who were busy at that time with some schools. So we donate those bags to them to give them to the schools or school children. Furthermore, after that, we organized another boat trip the following year. And then after, we went to the library and we donated by the library. And in the meantime, before that also, we went to the Emilio Wilson Park. We told them that we're doing donations in all kinds of forms. So they asked us if we could help them to clean up the Emilio Wilson Park, and we did help them also.
And SXM Daily News will have more with the Friends in Action Foundation in tomorrow's broadcast. And with that, viewers, we've come to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you so much for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.